everybody, my name is Kate and welcome to my channel, Trinergy Awakens Naturally. So we're going to discuss downloads while we drive. Some of the best stuff comes in when I'm driving, and I'm on my way to go play with the horses today. So every time that I'm preparing to go and meet with Equus, Epona, etc., I get huge downloads, or it helps to synthesize downloads that I've gotten recently. And this past weekend, my dog and I went hiking and camping at Turquoise Lake in Colorado, and that is near Aspen, near Leadville, near a bunch of altitude, etc. That I live in Colorado Springs, and that's already altitude there. However, this shoots up into stuff that, wow, I thought I was getting over my fear of heights. I don't have just a quotation fear of heights. I slam still, hyperventilate, even looking up too far. But I've been working on this gradually for the last couple of years to get less intimidated by driving into those elevations and then getting myself out of the car and actually going and hiking in them as well. And last weekend, hold on, let me back up for just a second and just let you know, this is relevant to the Lionsgate portal. The Lionsgate on 8/8 is a huge portal of awareness. We're actually in a new moon in Leo. There's a lot going on. This is a timeless message because it's relevant on different timelines when it's relevant. So please take it if it fits, and if it don't hit, then let it fly. It's okay. Say goodbye. But in preparation for this, last weekend I was out hiking in Royal Gorge, which is complete opposite, different direction, and yet there's some scary canyon experiences because in Royal Gorge, we're at the top, of course, looking out over the canyon. In the northern region where I was this past weekend, it was actually just up in the mountains, period, and there were canyons, but even further up. So last weekend before this past, when I was at Royal Gorge, it was just a day hike, and the last time I was there, I got really freaked out because a trail narrowed down. It narrowed down pretty small, like pretty tight, and I was alone at the time. I didn't have my dog with me at the time. It was just me, and it was been maybe 2 years ago now. And I reached a part in this trail where I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to go back. I was not exactly in my right mind, if you know what I mean. Like, I was afraid that if I turned around and went back, that I wouldn't be able to find my way, just an in and out, that I wouldn't be able to find my way, and yet I was terrified to move on. I was in a point of stasis and real freaking panic, which is not a good combo on the side of a mountain that has, you know, this deep chasm into the Arkansas River. You know, I was noticing, that I was pushed right to the point of distress, and yet this quiet kept coming over me of, Kate, you cannot do this the way that you used to. This isn't the place to lose your mind, because you can't very easily just slip off into this canyon and be done. That's not going to go well. You know, it will book out pretty easily and quickly. However, that might not be the way that you really want that. You know, so how about pull it together very quickly here, because it's crucial that you understand you're being pushed. Every time that these portals and these gateways and these different energetic surges come, we're pushed, and that's what I was feeling at the time, was this push to move past this block, because this isn't a safety factor. It becomes a safety factor when we lose our minds. I mean, I was clear on that it's going to become a safety factor for about that long, and you're just going to be tossed over the side because you're just not pulling it into, I can do this because I must do this. This isn't a matter of, I don't want to, no, and just avoid it and all that crap. There's nowhere to run. There's only dip out or dip in, you know, put your toe in or dip out, you know. Don't hover in the doorway. It's creepy, you know, from Parks and Rec, to either come in the door or get out the door, but don't hover in the doorway because it's super creepy. And I got some tool on my butt. What is this? I'm in the slowest lane, and I got somebody that wants to ride my ass. Okay, well, that's okay. Enjoy the ride, I suppose. But anyway, either pull into right here in this moment and understand that you got to deal with this fear. You have to deal with this sense of, I don't know what to do, and thank you very much, backed right off. That I don't know what to do with this. Yes, you do know what to do with this. You deal with this by deep breathing immediately. Let's get some oxygen into that brain that you just cut off, you know, 90% of it by going and holding it. You know, let's get the physics and the physiology down for this. that take a breath in and get all the oxygen that you can, all that lifeblood going that's vital. Don't get that stale stuff stuck in there, because that just helps you make even worse decisions as you continue to, hold the breath and then hyperventilate and then start losing all sense of reality when fingers start tingling and, fainting and stuff. That's not a gracious way to go here. Just faint off the side because we couldn't pull it in. And so it was very clear to me. I knew when I went there that day, my guides and I have a pretty tight relationship, so I knew that day that something big was going to happen, but I never really know what big is going to be, what that looks like, what it is, whether it's I'm dealing with something with my own, internal fears, my own PTSD responses and reactions, or if I'm dealing with land healing that's pretty massive and amazing, or if I'm seeing things that, are really cool. I never really know. And so anyway, the bottom line was that you have this opportunity right now. We've pushed you to the point because you were a willing participant in this. I didn't blindly go in there. I knew this is what's going to happen, and I know that I'm safe and secure and completely taken care of no matter what. And the question became to me in my mind of, do you want to go over the side of the mountain in this dramatic way, that you just lose it? Or do you at least want to attempt? Because you don't have any guarantee. Just because you're protected and all that, whoopsie, doesn't mean that, so sorry, I'm going to have to be that kind of jerk that doesn't know what she's doing. See? That's where you get to eat it a little bit. Thank you very much. Do you want to be tied to the idea that safety means that I won't fall off the side of this mountain? Well, there's no guarantee no matter what we do. And boy, that was a realization of what? What do you mean that I'm not going to be safe? You are going to be safe. How do you want to feel safe? Do you only want to feel safe if you can be guaranteed of something? Because there are no guarantees. You're playing in the game of life, and there are no guarantees. The only thing you can guarantee is that you feel that sense of safety and security no matter what is happening to thee. That's what you can be guaranteed of. But we can't tell you right now. We're not your feet. We're not your mind. We're part of your soul, and we are here to help you. However, we are not you, and it's got to be that all of you, as much of you as can pull it in right here to get comfortable and jiggy with, I am secure and I surrender to this process. Not surrender and give up. That's not what I was asked to do. I was asked to surrender to this process, lean into that fear by deep breathing into it and say, okay, I do feel this, I feel this, and what is it that I can start doing to work with my logical mind, which that's the first thing to go whenever we stop breathing and the brain locks up. Well, the frontal lobe is part of that process, and usually our logic and our right mind and our thinking mind goes right out the window, and we start making some dumbass decisions right from there. Whoops, and so if I'm standing there and I'm leaning into it, okay, I'm ready to deep breathe into this, I'm ready to feel the fullness of this, it passes much faster. It really does, for me anyway, and I'm going to say, give it a try at least. Maybe not your first time on the side of a mountain hanging up high, however, give it a whirl. That lean into this, and it started to pass that, okay, it is just the fear, and it is a sensation, and yes, I do feel that in my body, and I made myself as safe as I possibly could by bracing myself against the side of the mountain. And I realized when I looked down, at my feet very, very carefully that, okay, the trail isn't quite as narrow as I had perceived it, because I was starting to feel that tunnel vision and that fear and that, oh my God, I can't do this. Because of that, I had actually perceived the trail as being far narrower than it actually was. Now, it wasn't a highway by any means, and it certainly wasn't, 3 or 4 people wide. You couldn't get much more than, one good-sized person on this trail at a time. But it was a little bit wider than, the tightrope that it felt like it was. And so I could handle that even better by saying, okay, I've been scared to the point of thinking I'm on a tightrope, and I'm actually not. So, I sure am grateful, and start saying thank you. I'm very grateful to know that I have that piece of information. Thank you. What else can I ascertain about this? That, okay, well, you can actually sit down. If you feel like you're losing your balance, if you feel like the visual is too much, only look at your feet. Look down and only look at your feet. Don't allow your eyes to gaze out further to distort that perception any bit, because that's the part that I'm working on, is being able to deal with the height thing. Most of it is just perception. because I have some visual processing disorders with autism, it can make things look very distorted from what they actually are. Once I've been through that fear part of it, and I go back off and find that that same place on a trail will be much easier to navigate, and it looks completely different. Oftentimes I don't even realize that I'm at the same part of the trail until I get the drop in from my guides of, hey, dude, remember this? Remember when that used to look this way? So anyway, whenever I sat down, excuse me, I backed up against the mountain, and then there's room that I could actually sit down. Somebody's got a little accident going here, so whoopsie. Sorry to hear that or see that. So sorry for that. Yeah, they're jammed up right on each other. Okay, y'all look good. You don't need a 911. Okay. Do you need somebody to come pull that off? What do you call that? A tow truck. Yeah. So God bless that. That I sat down. I actually had room to sit down. You know, that my legs were not getting so wobbly and, you know, getting distorted with all of that oh God stuff. Once the panic started subsiding, that I could actually sit down for a minute. I had room to sit with my knees drawn up. Again, you know, not room that I'd want to sit down on the side of the mountain or anything. Not me. Some people can do that stuff very easily. That is not where my fear point was, that I could do that kind of thing without working for it. That, okay, at least I feel more stable when I'm all the way closer to the ground. That if I fall over, you know, I can just roll over and it won't be just a straight fall. You know, it'd be slightly different. Somehow these thoughts are, you know, seemed a little better to me. So anyway, I sat down and I sat there for a few minutes until I could actually breathe and breathe and breathe, you know, and continue to get the information from my guides that are telling me that this is really about perception, and it's really about growing your willingness to go here. And what is it that you want to be guaranteed of? It's guaranteed that you can in any moment find surrender and release, and know that you are completely taken care of, that you are loved, you're cherished, you're all of these things, and that you are held in the arms of divine love. You are a slice of divinity. Then you can return to that place of divinity at any point in your life, any point in your day, because it's you that steps away, not divinity. It's you that's stepping away, Kate. So you can return to that sense, and the quicker that you learn that in any situation, the quicker that you can get to that, you will find that relief. And so I was really quite grateful, obviously, that, okay, cool. I didn't just spring up and start, you know, sprinting down around the mountain to the other side and down to my car again right quick. It didn't happen like that. You know, it doesn't happen easily. When we earn these spots in these places, they're like Olympic gold, you know, literally. Shout out to the Olympics. So it's not that it comes easily necessarily, but I did feel that sense of peace overwhelm me, that, okay, you know, what are you willing to surrender to? And I'm willing to surrender to that I am taken care of, and that I can put one foot in front of me, and that I can make my way up this mountain, because I don't choose to just sit here and, you know, starve to death, or, you know, freeze, or get eaten by something. I mean, there's something will come of this, that it will transform. It will, the energy that we get stuck in, the physical location that we get stuck in, it will change and transform at some point, because energy isn't stagnant. It's neither created nor destroyed. So I could sit there, but something would happen to change my status there at some point. Do I want to wait and see what that happens to be, or do I want to take control of that and say, yeah, I'll manage this a little bit more directly with the help of my guides and with the help of my own logical mind, my frontal lobe. Let's get all the parts of this put together. It just takes me a minute, you know, hold on a second. We're going to put a little time out while Kate collects all of those beans into one bag, you know, gets her shit in one sock, so to speak, and can deal with it. And so, you know, being able to do that and surrender to the idea that I do know that I can walk out of this, and it might not be pretty, it might not be, you know, feeling the best in my logical mind or perhaps in my body. However, even if it takes me an hour to move off this spot, I have all of the tools, and I have the team here with me to help guide me, coax me, and bring me through this to the other side of this experience, so that this can be a win for me. And no matter what that looked like, because believe me, the win is not about getting off the mountain gracefully. It's not about living off the mountain necessarily. The win for me that day was, what are you willing to surrender to? And I'm willing to surrender to the possibility that I'm on the side of a mountain having to face imminent death if I make, you know, stupid mistakes or get caught up in my own fear and terror. You know, that is one of the laws of physics, but it's also one of the prices that we pay whenever we go into these games, right? There's a price to pay for every game that we play. And part of going into elevation, part of going into mountains, part of being in the wilderness environment is that your life is on the line every second. However, my life was on the line long before I ever got there by getting in my car, by engaging in the world. So it's a matter of what's the perception on that, and what do you consider, life-threatening. And at that moment, was it as life-threatening as it seemed, or was that just my perception? And largely it was my perception, with some necessary noticing of, hey, unless you can fly, you do have to carefully manage your steps, and you do have to respect the fact that thousands of feet up in the air is thousands of feet up in the air, and this isn't beyond your skill level necessarily. This is beyond your trauma response level that you think. And so this is a matter of grab a hold of that trauma response, that reaction of, oh, I couldn't possibly, that is somatically kind of seeded in from other situations of great horror and terror that I didn't handle very well, and then I got extremely hurt. And so all of these things are coming up. It's a whole lot to try to process. However, it happened rather quickly, and I was left with the knowledge and the knowing that, yeah, we've had some of these somatic experiences that were dug in deep, and that's where this came from. However, you actually have more room, you actually have more skill, you have more ability, and this isn't about any of that. This is about, we're working through all of that old junk. It helped to break through some pieces of old trauma that weren't even as closely related to height or that situation, that kind of situation, as one would think. They didn't directly correlate. However, they brought up that whole energetic field in the same way, and I was really shocked as I was driving back home, all of the downloads I got and all of the dump out of just visions of all kinds of things that resided in that same feeling of terror and panic and oh my God. And nature is a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful experience, and a beautiful way for me. I think, everybody, however, I'm not everybody else, I'm only me, that it's a beautiful place and a beautiful way to experience those kinds of things where, I knew I was going to be pressed. I always do, and I wouldn't recommend that we set ourselves up, for disaster by not having a very clear understanding or a clear guidance system that's telling us, not to be daredevils, however, to go out there in the safest way possible with all the information that we have and all the skill that we have, and listen very carefully, intuitively, to understand that, oh, okay, I'm volunteering, I'm surrendering to this process, and then get to that point of, well, I didn't mean that, that I was going to surrender, to this, though. I didn't know that that's what I was signing up for. Well, here it is, Kate, that you surrender to this process, then you surrender to this process, and you surrender to the process as is, not how you, dare to manipulate it or, manage it in a way that we can help you more. I could have taken that whole experience and just locked down into my rigid self, and it would have been far more dangerous and highly likely that I would have hurt myself at a minimum, and quite possibly just killed myself by being too panicked and frightened by it. I was amazed actually at being able to surrender into that and say, okay, the price of this game before I ever got in my car this morning was death. That's just the way that is. That getting in your car, there's a price there, but definitely going up into elevation and, playing that level, then okay. However, it wasn't out of my technical skill set. It was out of my mind's skill set and my trauma responses skill set up to that point to how are you going to manage this? How are you going to alchemize and transform this? How are you going to move this energy? Because energy is neither created nor destroyed. Then how are we going to move this forward so that we're not sitting in this stasis? Because I don't want something else to manage or move my energy or transform it or alchemize it for me. I'd like to be the one that is directing that, managing that with the help of my team that is energetic source. So the more that I can surrender into that process and allow my own team to guide me through that, then that gets a cleaner exchange of those energies. It gets a cleaner transformation of that energy, and it dumped out. I'm talking a huge amount of just toxic die-off on my way home. So I can't say that, I wouldn't recommend that people just randomly go out and do daredevil stuff to try to push themselves. That is not how those things happen. They happen very organically, and they happen very naturally. However, it doesn't mean that I get to engage in my life, being a light worker or a starseed, however I might be identifying myself, being very plugged into my team, doesn't mean that I don't experience fear, that I have some cushy life, that I don't have days that suck, or days that by human standard would suck. What I do is, what can I learn from this? And the price of living on earth is death. That's what we paid regardless. I mean, that is the price of coming to earth, is that you're gonna die, period. So get jiggy with that shit. And I'm not looking to put myself into situations where my life is on the line willingly. However, we came into this experience, then we already know the price that you're going to pay at some point is to dime out of this experience. Now, how are you going? Well, let's make sure that I'm knowing as I'm going that what I'm dealing with, that is today the day. Well, it could be, how are you willing to play? Are you willing to just curl up in your bed and be bothered by every possibility of, oh my God, I don't know, what if I can't do this? Are you willing to live like that anymore, Kate? Because that was my life, many years ago. Now, I didn't get out of bed for a whole lot, and I took a whole lot of chemicals, pills and all kinds of things, trying to keep myself in a bubble. And can't say that I love that experience that day in that moment. However, I love knowing that those moments come and they ask me to stretch beyond my comfort zone. They push me to stretch beyond my comfort zone, and that's what I ask for. So how, Kate, are you going to ask to get out of that slump and that stasis and that stagnation that you used to be in 5 or 10 years ago? How are you going to ask and beg and plead Spirit to get me out of this, and then not want to have to do what it takes to get out of it? Inertia is hard to overcome. Inertia can be incredibly hard to overcome. It's much easier to keep rolling when we're already rolling. However, when we're at a dead stop, that can be quite a bit. So they're jarring experiences sometimes. However, the key is knowing that I have my team, period. And even if I roll off the side of this mountain, it'll be doing something I love and overcoming whatever that fear is. That fear would be, oh, I'm getting ready to surrender to my death, and okay. And, as much of a phoenix rising as I can in that moment well up in me, the chances are far greater that the minute I get jiggy with the worst possible outcome and do what I can to mitigate it, the easier it's going to be. And that's how it worked out. It did not make it, just flawless, and it certainly didn't make it to where, my warrior spirit just went, I got this shit, no problem. It still was pay very focused, careful attention as you're going down. However, it became easier and easier and easier once I reached that point of, okay, this is the most stressful and panicked moment there is. This is the tightest of the trail. This is the most technical part of this experience. It actually eased up pretty quickly. It was getting through my own mind trap, which is the biggest part of the game all the way around. So anyway, I hope that that's helpful for you in some way, and I hope that you enjoy your day and get within your skin, because you're divine. Your divine is absolutely fine. It can help you to get through 2222, every one of those places in your mind. Also, the mind is simply the operating system that has been developed over time. It's what our parents told us, it's what the people around us told us, it's what we told us, it's what society has told us, marketing, etc. Everything that's ever been sold to us as our identity, or what it should be or shouldn't be, that's the mind that tells us all of those things. Because if other people can ride their bikes on those trails, then there's obviously an ability for a human being to navigate high altitudes in many different ways. So it's not that I'm the only human on the planet that cannot, or that I could not. There are many reasons that might get in the way of that. However, the mitigating factor is not the fact that humans themselves as a species cannot do this. There's a whole trail made because humans can. So it might be that it's best for me not to navigate them anymore. However, it doesn't mean that it's impossible for a human to do that. So let's find a way to human help this with some spiritual help this, and move this along and find something that maybe next time isn't quite as scary. I don't know, we'll see. So anyway, as I said, get within your skin, because you're divine. It's beautiful, it's gorgeous, it's courageous. That part of us, it has nothing but courage, because it doesn't know what fear is. Humans know that fear very well, and it's about marrying up. How can I mitigate the fear? By marrying myself up with my warrior spirit. Get a hold of that. So do that. It's just fine, and it can help you along every single time. So take care of yourself. Have a beautiful day, and I'll talk to you again next time. Bye, friends. Mwah.